We often think of reality as a solid, unbreakable foundation beneath our feet. We trust the colors of the sky, the warmth of the sun, and the familiar faces in the crowd. But what if that foundation is nothing more than a thin layer of paint on a rotting wall? What if the world you know is slowly being replaced by something else? If the world loses its color, do not scream. They can hear your fear, and they are already waiting for you to notice them. It started with a hum, a low-frequency vibration that seemed to rattle the very marrow of my bones. It wasn't coming from the street or the television. It was coming from the air itself. Then, the broadcast cut in, bypassing every digital lock and every modern frequency. It wasn't a standard emergency alert. It was a relic of a time that never existed. The screen flickered with the jagged static of an old VHS tape, bleeding shades of gray and sickly yellow across my living room. There were no logos, no government seals, just a wall of text that felt like a threat. Emergency advisory, it read in a font that looked like it was screaming. Desaturation zones detected in your area. The instructions were simple, clinical, and utterly terrifying. They spoke of a phenomenon where reality begins to leak, draining the vibrancy from the world until only the dust remains. The voice of the narrator was hollow, like a recording played inside a deep, empty well. It warned us that the first sign of a zone transition is the loss of color. If your red shirt turns to charcoal, if the blue sky becomes the color of wet concrete, you have already crossed the threshold. You are no longer in the world you were born into. The broadcast showed security footage, grainy and distorted, from a subway station that looked familiar, yet horribly wrong. A woman was standing by the tracks, her sundress vibrant and bright. As she stepped into a patch of shadow, the color simply fell away from her. It didn't fade, it peeled off like dead skin, leaving her a monochromatic ghost in a world of gray. The narrator whispered that she didn't realize she was gone yet. She was still checking her watch, still waiting for a train that would never come to this version of the station. Then, the camera panned to the other passengers, and that's when I saw them. The residents of the desaturated zones. They looked human at a distance, wearing clothes from the 80s and 90s, standing perfectly still. But as the camera zoomed in, their eyes were revealed. They were not eyes at all, but twin pits of obsidian, swallowing all the light in the room. They had no pupils, no irises, just an endless, glassy void. The broadcast instructed us, do not look into the black eyes. If they catch your gaze, they will know you are a traveler. They will know you do not belong. I looked out my window and my heart stopped. The neon sign of the pharmacy across the street, usually a piercing green, was now a dull, flickering gray. The asphalt of the road looked like ash, and the trees were skeletons of silver and soot. The transition was happening right outside my door. The air began to smell of ozone and old, damp paper. It was the scent of a basement that hadn't been opened in 50 years. I heard the sound of footsteps on the stairs, slow and deliberate. They didn't sound like leather shoes on wood. They sounded like stone grinding against stone. I remembered the broadcast's warning. They can hear your heartbeat if you let it race. Calm yourself. Become as still as the gray. I retreated into the corner of my room, clutching my phone, but the screen was dead. Not out of battery, just empty, as if the concept of light had been forgotten. The door to my apartment creaked open, a sound that seemed to last for an eternity. A figure stood in the doorway, tall and draped in a coat that seemed to absorb the shadows. It didn't speak. It didn't breathe. It just turned its head, searching the room with those terrible, hollow pits of obsidian. I held my breath until my lungs burned, watching the entity drift across the floor. It moved with a strange, stuttering gait, like a film skipping frames. It stopped at a photograph on my desk, a picture of me and my brother at the beach. The entity touched the glass with a pale, elongated finger. Where it touched the photo, the color vanished instantly. My brother's smile turned into a gray smear, and the blue ocean became a sea of lead. The entity let out a sound then, a low, rhythmic clicking, like a Geiger counter in a radioactive wasteland. It was disappointed. It hadn't found what it was looking for. It turned and walked back out into the hallway, leaving the door wide open. I waited for hours, listening to the silence of 7 a.m. In this place, there are no birds, no wind, no distant hum of traffic. There is only the sound of your own thoughts, echoing against the walls of a dying dimension. I eventually crept to the door and looked out into the hallway. The carpet was gone, replaced by cracked concrete that stretched on forever. The doors to the other apartments were gone too. There were only endless rows of empty frames leading into a darkness that felt heavy and thick. I realized then that the broadcast wasn't a warning from our world. It was a welcoming message from this one. They wanted us to know the rules because the game is more fun when the prey tries to hide. They feed on the realization that you are never going home. I found a television in the middle of the hallway, sitting on the floor without any wires. It was playing the same EAS message, over and over. "If the world loses its color, do not scream," the voice repeated, but now it sounded like it was laughing. "The gray is where you were always meant to be." I looked at my hands and saw that my skin was starting to turn the color of parchment. My veins were no longer blue. They were thin, black lines of ink. I am writing this on a scrap of paper I found in a room that looks like my bedroom but feels like a tomb. I don't know if anyone will ever read this. Perhaps you are seeing this on your own screen right now. Perhaps you notice that the lamp beside you looks a little dimmer than it did a moment ago. Check the color of your nails. Check the reflection in your window. Are the eyes looking back at you yours, or are they starting to darken? If you feel the chill of the ozone, do not run. Running only makes the transition faster. The desaturation is not a process. It is a destiny. Somewhere in the distance, I can hear the clicking again. There are many of them now, moving through the gray, searching for the last flickers of light. I think I'll stop fighting it. The black eyes aren't so scary once you realize they aren't looking at you. They are looking through you. Welcome to 7LM. Don't worry about the silence. You'll get used to the sound of the void soon enough. Just remember one thing before the light goes out forever. If you see someone you know, and their eyes are black, they aren't your friend anymore. They are just another part of the architecture of this hollow place. And soon, you will be too.